got one more day left until I get my ban from YouTube is off. I might post this on Patreon or somewhere. My wife and I are heading to a place called Heartwood Pines, which is pretty cool. It's been on my bucket list for a long time. It's the only place in Michigan and one of the few places left in the country that have virgin forest. And by virgin forest, I mean it's never been logged. I mean, we're talking it's only like, what, 10 acres? 10, 20 acres. It's just a small chunk of land. But you don't realize, the average person doesn't realize, is when you see the trees that you see all the time, they're babies. They're only about maybe a quarter of the weight potentially grown. All the trees you see are literally babies, every one. Because man's come in and log them, and then they grew back up, and when they got to about 50, 60 years again, they log them again. So about every between 40 and 60 years, we come in to log them, and because we want the lumber money. People are greedy, and they know they can get the money. Even if you have a bunch of property in the middle of freaking woods, middle of nowhere, you know that you could just call some lumber company and say, give me, let's say you got 500 acres. You might say, give me $300,000 for the lumber rights. You can come here and, cut this 500 acres. $300,000. Now you only paid $100,000 for the property 20 years ago. So now, $300,000 in your pocket. Yes, they cut your land down to a wasteland, but let's say you're old, you don't really use it much, deer hunting, whatever. In 10 years, you got some little trees there. 20 years, eventually, 30 years, 40 years, it's back grown up again, and your children or your grandchildren have it. And now they can sell it for $800,000 for the lumber rights. And that's how generational wealth happens. I see somebody's here trout fishing. Huh? Some kind of trout river there, huh? That's how you get this generational wealth in the north, where people buy property and then they log it about every 40 years. Anyways, Heartwood Pines is a place where a woman said, I guess you didn't have any relatives or something, right?
I don't know. She left it to the state as a state park, I think, and said as long as you don't cut this, you can have it as a park.
Yeah, the deal was, if I remember reading it correctly, it was that she didn't have anyone to give it to, and they had logged everywhere around it. And she's like, if I give you this piece of property, the one condition is that you can never log it. So it's just like 10 acres of these gigantic trees.
I think it started off as like 50 acres or 30 acres something, but then between storms and fires and stuff, now it's only 10 acres, I'm pretty sure.
See, I have a hard time believing that. She said it started off as maybe 50 acres.
Maybe it was 20, I don't remember.
But the thing is, 10 acres just didn't suddenly just get, oh, there was a fire, we lost 10 acres, oh, gotta lumber it. Those trees are huge. They can survive any kind of fires. They can survive anything. So I have a hard time believing it. My guess is they just wanted to log it because those giant trees are worth a fortune. Every one of those giant trees are worth like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Like $5,000. Probably more than that. Probably 10 grand for one of those trees because all the lumber they can get out of it. There's 2,000 2x4s out of one of them things. Yeah, that's what they make 2x4s out of and stuff like that. Yeah. So I mean, if you figure you get 2,000 2x4s, and 2,000 2x4s out of one of those trees, and you sell those for $12 a pop, it's $24,000 worth of 2x4s for just one tree. Now think about it. So there's greedy slime balls. We're like, oh, we had a fire. Oh, gotta cut it down. Oh no, this one broke over. Gotta cut it down. I don't believe it. There's just greed. That's how it is everywhere. But anyways, there's 10 acres left, and I wanted to see them. And then in a minute, I'll make a video of, it's a place where it's kind of a public place, so I imagine there's going to be some people there. Not surprised, it's a Saturday afternoon. We just want to go do something that's different,
The drive is beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful drive. I mean, look where we're at. That's the nice part about living up where we live. Everywhere is a beautiful drive. See some deer and some animals. Might see some eagles, whatever. It's just beautiful. But we go there, and I always wanted to see it. She told me about it when I was in prison, that she had gone there and checked it out. It's always kind of been on my bucket list. I said, you want to go to Heartwood Pines today? She's like, yeah. I said, well, I'm going to bring my trout rod and my waders in case there's any creeks around. And sure enough, she found a couple creeks, the East Branch of the Sabo River, which, by the way, is the first trout creek that I ever fished with my dad when I was like 8 or 9. Saw my first bear that day. Creek right there.
I saw my first bear on this road. There's a turnoff that's like a scenic turnoff.
Is that the bear that was limping?
No. This is the bear. Remember, I thought it was a dog.
Oh, yeah. My wife was at a scenic overlook, Powell off, and was looking. and she's looking down, and about 400 or 500 yards away on the other side of the river, she's like, "There's a big ass dog out there all by itself running around." She's like, "Wait a minute, some dog, a freaking bear." She did see a giant bear around here somewhere one time too.
Down in Alcona County.
Yeah, and it was a wounded. He had hurt his foot. I imagine he either got hit by a car or.
Well, then it was in the newspaper. Like, remember a week later, it was sitting on somebody's lawn, and it had a broken, like a hurt paw.
Yeah, and an injured paw, really big one.
That was a big ass bear, though.
Like a 500-pound bear. It's a huge monster bear. He might have got his foot caught in a trap, or just broke his foot doing something. You never know. But they're super tough and resilient. He's kind of might have walked the rest of his life with a limp. Whatever. A lot of bears, though. They're smart. Anyways, I wanted to see this. I'll show you guys some pictures and videos after. Check it out. Then I'm going to try and jump in one of this little creek, man. Life goes full circles. When I was 8, 9 years old, my dad took me trout fishing for the first time. Walked me up this creek in the middle of nowhere. Said, "All right, you go in there here and fish downstream to the bridge," which is like 300 yards down the way. He's like, "I'm going to swing around downstream and fish back up to the bridge. I'll see you in about 3 hours." I'm like 8 years old. My dad just leaves me in the middle of the wilderness, and it's freaking wilderness. Probably not the best thing to do as a father, is leave an 8-year-old kid all by himself in the middle of the woods. 20 minutes and a freaking bear shows up. It was 2 cubs. I saw 2 cubs. I'm like, "Oh, cute cub bears. I've never seen that before." And all of a sudden, I'm like, "Wait a minute, cubs mean there's a mother." I look over there, and sure enough, the mother was staring right at me. Oh, I was so scared. So scared. In my mind, I'm like, I'm going to dive under the water and swim as far as I can, as fast as I can, which wouldn't have done nothing. But I was little. I only weighed about 60 pounds. So, I mean, I was more worried about the mother bear thinking I was a morsel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But she didn't. She made this like a bark type of sound, huff, and then took off. There's quite a few little creeks around here I'm seeing, honey. I hit them on the way back. I'm just saying, some 4-wheelers on the road. See them out there.
There's a boat launch. We're the ensembles down there somewhere.
The main branch?
Yeah.
There's trout in that too.
Yeah.
They got that listed as one of the best trout streams in Michigan.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're heading to the Grayling. That's the fly fishing capital of Michigan.
Yeah. That's where we were camping when I went with my dad. Camped at Grayling. I saw a bear there too. That's a crazy story. It was getting dark out, and I went down to the creek, the stream, main branch of the stream, and I was catching fish. I was catching little ones, getting bites, and I broke my line. I was sitting down there trying to retie in the dark. It was almost dark, almost dark. A little bit of moonlight was coming out, and the camp was about 300 yards away down this trail where the campground was, and I hear like footsteps and something coming up on me, and I think it's my dad, because my dad's a drinker, so I figured he was drinking and like he's gonna come up and try to scare me. That's what he was doing. That's what I'm thinking. My dumbass, drunk ass dad's gonna come up and try to scare me. So I'm not really paying attention to it. I'm more concerned about getting this hook tied back on so I catch another fish, right? A couple more crunches I hear up, because there's a bank, it goes up, and it's about 8 to 10 feet up where the woods is, and crunch, crunch, crunch. Then I hear this. Like a heavy breathing, right? So I look up and I see a big old dog sitting there. I'm like, oh, it's somebody's dog, I just hope the owner is close by, because I don't want somebody's dog biting me, you know what I'm saying? Then my eyes kind of focused on it. I'm like, that ain't a dog. It's a black bear. And
it's funny how you can mistake it for a dog sometimes.
Yeah, I know. Well, of course, your mind doesn't think like that,
Yeah.
You see a black dog in the dark.
It's a lab.
It's only bear was probably 150 pounds, so it wasn't that much bigger than a black lab or a Rottweiler or something. And it's just sitting there, and I could hear it breathing. And it's staring right at me. And then this thing is literally like 12 feet from me. 12 feet. And I freeze the F up. Again, in my mind, if it takes one more step toward me, I'm diving into that river and swimming underwater for like 50 yards in my mind, downstream, because it's kind of deep there, so I knew I could swim a long ways underwater. But it just turned around and walked about 10 more feet and stopped, and turned around and looked at me again and watched me for a second, and then turned around and walked away, went the way it came, and went back to the way it came. Now, I waited till it was maybe 30 yards away and ran the fastest I've ever run in my life. I'm not joking. That's the fastest moment I have ever run in my life. In my mind, it felt like I went from that spot back to our camp 300 yards away in maybe 6 or 8 seconds. I mean, of course it wasn't that fast, but it felt like it. I mean, my feet were moving so freaking fast. I was, that's one of the times in my first times in my life I realized how fast I am athletically. Like wow, I'm like Olympic sprinter fast. I was moving. I was right back into camp. Then I didn't even tell my dad because I didn't think he'd believe me. I go zipping back into the camp. What are you doing? Like, no, caught a couple. I didn't even tell my dad for years. Didn't tell my dad. I'm like, he's thinking full of shit. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even say nothing. Eventually, I told him. He's like, that don't surprise me. Bears around there. Freaking. It was a good time. I caught my first trout while I was there with a fly rod. First trout on a fly rod. Wouldn't be the last. It did get me hooked. No pun intended. Huh? Trout fishing as soon as I experienced it for the first time in my life, I thought this is the coolest thing that you can never do in life. Way down these little creeks that are 2-3 feet deep and kind of drift a little worm through these holes and pluck these beautiful little fish out of these log jams and holes. It's just so pretty and tranquil. I mean, when I was in prison, all I did is think about it. Now, I'd only gone twice more in my life before I went to prison. Twice I went with my girlfriend. I took her with me to go trout fishing, and I loved it. It was beautiful. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I kind of had an idea of where to catch them, but I didn't really know anything about them. It took me a long time to get better at it. But I went twice. So now when I get to prison, I'm just like, God, that was the most beautiful thing I've ever done. Like, the most beautiful thing I can do is just go out in those woods and trout fish. Someday, some way. And I told my wife about it too when I was in prison. Then I'd say I want to go trout fishing.
Oh, yeah, many times.
I was like, yeah, when we get out, I want to go trout fishing.
Remember I found that little creek by our house, and you're like, is there a trout in there? But there's trout in there. I'm like, I don't know, there's some kind of fish in there.
Yeah, there was a little creek by our house when I got out of prison, which is funny because another funny story. Before I got out of prison, I had to have one phone call with my parole officer, right? And this is like my counselor calls me in. I already got my parole. I'm about 2-3 weeks away from coming home, and she calls me and says, "You got to call your parole officer." I'm like, right here in your office? She's like, yeah. So I get on, she calls the parole office, he answers, get on the phone, I'm like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, sure this is where you're going to go, sure where you're going to be, you're not going to try to live in the city and come up here, use your address. And nah, bro. I'm like, he's like, well, what are you going to do? I go, do a lot of trout fishing. That's what I told him. He's like, well, what are you going to do up here? I'm like, do a lot of trout fishing. He's like, what are you going to do for money? I'm like, I'm a writer, I publish my books. He's like, a lot of trout fishing. So you got any trout streams or anything? I go, yeah, I got a few. In fact, there's one right on the road where I live. He's like, yeah? Where's that at? And I go, well, I can't tell you that, because if I do, there won't be any trout when I go get out. He starts laughing. He's like, yeah, all right. I'm like, I can understand that. I mean, I can tell you my trout stream, go wipe them out. So he was laughing. And so there wasn't any trout in there. There might have been some. There definitely was some baby steelhead in there.
In the spring, that's probably what it was. It was early spring when I saw them.
Well, but there could have been. Probably wasn't. There are a few steelhead in there, but there's a big beaver pond or jam that stops them from getting up. So I don't know. But certainly there's definitely a few rainbow trout in there. Maybe a couple brookies in there. I never caught anything because in the summer it all gets down to it stops running. It stops. There's no rain on. Spring runoff, yeah. So it didn't matter. There was rivers around. I discovered there's a river right by my house, about 8 miles away, that was loaded with salmon. Talk about, imagine the hallelujah moment when I discovered that. I can't even tell you that one. I didn't know if there's salmon in there or not. I went up to this little store. There's a bridge there in the store, and I walked in the store and said, you know if there's any salmon in this river? He's like, oh, yeah, I haven't heard about any getting in there. Yeah, we got a few. I'm like, okay, cool. There's a guy in the line, he's buying a fifth of whiskey or something, right? He goes, you been up to the weir? I'm like, what weir? He's like, come here, follow me. I'll show you what a weir is. Okay. He's like, yeah, look at salmon. So I follow him about 2-3 miles down this windy dirt road, goes up. There's like a lamprey weir where they harvest lampreys for study on this little piece of the river. So he goes, we walk up to the bridge, and we both look down, and he's going, yeah, you can't fish the first 150 feet from the weir, you can't fish from the bridge, blah, 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 blah. He's telling me this stuff, and I look down, and there's a giant frickin' salmon swimming up the river. right down below the bridge. I'm like, he's still talking. I just turn around and he was like drunk, you know. I just turn around and he's like, where you going? I'm like, put my waiters, man. There's a salmon right there. And he looks down and he's like, holy shit, there is one right there. And then I spent the next like 3 days wiping them out there. I mean, I must have caught about 12 fish. And then
first you had your surgery, I think, didn't you? Remember your mouth surgery when you were...
It was about the time I had the mouth surgery, but I spent a couple days there knocking them out.
Big power plant.
But then I said, well, if their salmon are here downstream, I wonder if they're way upstream by the you-know-what. And so I drove up there thinking, man, maybe there's some salmon way upstream. No, it's about 10 miles upstream. I come walking up to this, like, pool, and there's 2 old ladies and 2 old men sitting there. They got fishing rods, but they're, like, got crappy little, like, Zebco rods and reels. They don't know what they're doing. They're old, man, like 75-year-old couples, a couple of them. I walk up, and I say to the old lady, this is before I can get over to where the men are by the river. I say to the old lady, I said, guys see any in there? And like, oh, yeah, there's some big ones in there. I said, oh, yeah? I said, well, I'm going to get some. And she goes, yeah? They've been trying to get them for a while. I said, I'm good, trust me. She said, okay. Walked up, like second cast, I just, you know, I could see them right there. So it's like 20 salmon. I just second cast, I hooked this huge male. Jumping all over the place, jumps a bunch of people watching. The lady goes, wow, you are good. You're the best. And then I was like, you know what? I got to get away from all these witnesses. Because I was foul hooking them, you know, which is illegal. So I went downstream and discovered there's salmon up and down the river. It's a good time. And it's never looked back. But I didn't know there's trout in that river. I didn't know there was trout in that river till years later. And then I caught a brookie in there. And then caught some rainbows in there. This year I caught, I don't know, probably 8-10 brookies in there and a couple nice big rainbows. You know, one was like a 16-inch rainbow, a huge rainbow. So that's cool. I've also caught a couple nice steelhead in there, so it's nice. So it's now, because we moved, so it's maybe 25 minutes from my house, 30 minutes from my house. But it's still close enough to where I can just jump on my motorcycle and zip there, or jump on my car and go. Every fall, you'll note there's a ton of salmon videos popping off on my YouTube or wherever. That's the secret place. And it will remain secret. All right, I'm out. I'll show you some big-ass trees soon, though. You watch. Okay, we are in the reception center looking. This is cool. Oh, my dad has an owl just like that mounted, which I probably shouldn't say because that's illegal. Look at this bobcat and this lynx playing. They're babies. Bobcat and a lynx. It's pretty cool. Look at this bear. So this is about the size of the bear that was watching me that day. Which is a small bear. This is that's about the size of the average bear. Here, honey, take a video of me up like next to this so you can see. So people can see how small like an average bear is. It's already playing. Like you can see, this is an average size bear. You know, maybe 125 pounds. They're not monsters like everybody thinks. Surely it would be a young one this size, 2 or 3 years old, but that's it. They're not giants. Oh, that's cool right there. Look at this lynx. It's a full-grown lynx. Oh, that's badass. How big their paws are. Probably not supposed to touch them. Look at the paws. They have these huge, long arms and giant paws for snowshoeing. That's cool, man. Yeah, wouldn't that be awesome to have a pet lynx? But you really don't. You can't because, I guess you can, but the problem is when a cat this size gets playful and decides it wants to play, or if it gets mad, it could do damage and mess you up. What's with these foxes? Why that fox got bad ears? I don't know. That's a gray fox, maybe? Foxes. Old bear. Raccoon. No, coon eyes. Yeah? All right, I'm gonna check out the rest of this place, man. It's pretty cool. Is this the fort here? Let's find out what that is. What's up? What's up, honey?
The biggest pine tree was damaged in a storm in 1992.
The biggest pine tree was damaged in a storm in 1992?
Once the largest in the park, the pine lost its uppermost 30 to 40 feet.
Oh, snapped off, huh?
During peak health, the tree was 155 feet tall and contained 6,000 board feet of lumber. Boasting a diameter of 45 inches, this wood pine was approximately 300 years old.
Yep. Me and Maria in our excursions and our everything that we've done, I've encountered several virgin trees that I think, but they're not quite 300. But they were big. They're big like what we're going to see.
Yeah, they were not logged in the 30s. But he talked about the CCC camp here, Civilian Conservation Corps camp, located in the park, housed young men responsible for construction of the memorial building, the logging camp museum, and a host of other accomplishments. It was the longest lived CCC camp in the state.
There's a few.
This is 1941. The Armistice Storm exacted a heavy toll amongst the pines. Winds of near hurricane force swept through the uprooting half of the original tract.
Oh, that sucks. That's sad. That's cool. That's like an old campground back in the 40s. Look at this thing right there. That thing's gigantic. Look how big it is. Just to carry the logs out. It's pretty cool. Just saying. Who is this?
Edward Edgar Heartwood. He's the one that owned the original 8,000 acres around here. He was born in St. Louis, Michigan on September 6th.
I've been there in prison.
He grew up in Grayling, attended West Point, and graduated with honors.
How did he get 8,000 acres? Did he get a loan from the government or something?
He began the Heartwood Lumber Company.
Yeah, exactly. So he got, but he had to get a loan to buy. He's like this. I'm gonna buy these 8,000 acres if you give me the money, and then I'll sell the lumber from the acres and pay you back in 5 years.
Well, you want to know the whole story? Come on.
And that's crazy. And then all of a sudden, his whole family's millionaires for the rest of his life.
It says here.
Ooh. You know what this is? It's an ermine. It's a weasel. There's a lot of those on YouTube reporting people. What's up?
In 1927, an island of old-growth white pine amidst 8,200 acres are given to the state of Michigan by Karen D. Hartwick in memory of her husband, Edward Hartwick, that guy, the major. The pine grove escaped the crosscut saw in 1893 when it was determined that it would yield a small profit for its owner, the Sailing Hanson Lumber Company of Grayling. She purchased over 8,000 acres, including the original pine stand following her husband's death. In 1827, the formal agreement between the state of Michigan and Mrs. Hartwick included her request that the timber she purchased and donated be protected, and that a building be erected in memory of her husband, and that a road be constructed from Highway 27 to the Pines. She lived to see all her wishes fulfilled. Aww.
I love that. It chokes me up.
That
chokes me up.
Look at 1929. Fire threatens to destroy the pines. Fire breaks constructed in an earlier date around the pines, and a crew of 300 firefighters halted the fire only 3/4 of a mile distant.
Jesus, that's crazy.
I told you, fire and storm.
Well, yeah, it's crazy. All right, let's go see him. Oh, look at this. There's a wolf. And a wolf and a...
Badger?
No, it's a fox. Great fox. No, that's a badger.
Yeah.
Is that a wolverine?
Yeah, there must be
a young...
No, it's a fisher cat.
Oh, it's a
fisher.
Yeah, polecat, fisher cat.
Yeah.
And it's like a... You know how big that wolf is. Yeah. I mean, get a picture of me with this wolf. This is super cool.
Pulled down hard on the stock, and in the same motion pulled the hook loose and pushed his foot off into the slow current. We'd hear the shriek of wood on wood.
Look at this. Look at the size of that saw blade right there. And this would be hooked up to a mill on a river, and the river have like a paddle, and the paddle would, from the current of the river, would saw these logs. And that was your original first sawmill. It's crazy, man. Look at that lumber they're pumping out of there. It's crazy. And they're doing it with these giant circular saw blades. 1873, Michigan boasted 1,600 sawmills. By 1900, over 1 billion logs had been cut and shipped to markets, principally Albany and Chicago. That's crazy. What was the logs for? Building. I don't know. It's an old stump.
So they're talking about how after they logged it, there were huge fires, right? Mm-hmm. And it says here that you can still see all these stumps.
Burnt stumps?
And it says Why did the landscape not regenerate? Scientists speculate that when some large white pine stands were cut, the slash burned so hot and intensely that few trees or seeds even survived. Intense heat literally cooked the sandy, infertile soil, so many of the larger stumps, which retained some moisture, resisted the fire and remain to this day. Even after 100 years, the soils are so sterile that it's difficult for new plants and trees to even
That's
colonize.
crazy, man. It was all burned. It got so hot that all the seeds couldn't regenerate. That's cool. Never again.
Forest management. That's because they left all the debris after logging and then it all caught fire.
8 years ago, while I was locked in prison, my wife would drive around the state in that northern Michigan area looking for cool places and things to do for us when I got out. We're talking 8, 9 years ago. And she was living way up north in the middle of nowhere by herself, waiting for me. And this is one of the places you went, huh, honey?
Yeah. I heard about it and I was like, oh, I'm going to go check it out. So I drove here one Saturday and found it and walked it and I loved it. Fell in love with it. I was like, oh, we got to come back. I remember I've been telling you about it for years.
Yeah, she's saying, we got to go to Heartwood Pine. You know me, I'm just like, if there's no trout there, I don't really want to go. But it's not fair to her because, you know, there's more to life than trout fishing.
Yeah, you're limiting your scope if you only care about trout fishing.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess it's 2 of them. It must have been.
Beautiful back here, but this isn't where the giant trees are yet.
No, not yet.
We're still not even close. Beautiful trail, beautiful woods.
It's a beautiful trail. If I lived over here, I'd be walking it all the time.
It's beautiful, man. Wouldn't it be nice if you owned this? Like this stretch of property. Beautiful. Anyways, I think that's pretty gangster. If my wife driving around all by herself in the middle of nowhere, probably find cool spots for us to visit when I get out, and that's what we do. We've gone to many of the spots she found, and together we search for new ones. Mm-hmm. That's what we do. I love my wife. I love hanging out with her. Uh-huh. It's the most fun thing I can think of. No matter what, even if I'm trout fishing, I like to go to spots where she's right there by me, like a bridge or an access point, because it makes it extra fun when I get one. The 2 biggest trout I ever caught in my life, she was only like a couple 100 yards away. I ran over there. Oh my God, look at this trout. I was freaking out. So it's fun.
Get the preserve, you mean?
Yep. That's always fun. Salmon fishing with her is fun. Because you get to share the experience with somebody, you know, they can see the glee and, you know, how freaking enlightened you are and elated you are when you're just, oh my God. And you get to share that with somebody. So when you're by yourself, it's still cool, but it's not the same as when you got someone you love with you and they appreciate it. And so,
Agreed. Okay.
Look how dark it is back in here. It's cool looking here. I'm just saying. Here's another one, gigantic tree. It's so big and heavy up top that it's starting to lean over. It's going to fall. It's so big. You can't even get to the top of it. It's just insane how big that is. Wow. It's going to come crashing over at some point. Wow. I have a new respect for the forest. Just saying, looking at these huge old trees, they're incredible. And they're so old. And
you can't even see the tops of them.
I mean, they're just incredible. Mind-boggling. And all of us, we see trees all the time. We drive by them and you don't realize that they're babies. Then you come and see like mature trees.
Like look at this one. So that's the base of it. I mean, look how this is a white pine. Anybody who knows white pines know that that's insane for white pine.
And there's no limbs on the bottom 2/3 of the tree because they don't get any light, so they don't grow. And they just incredible. See these. You know, this is what the world looked like back during the Indian time. Yeah. When there was Indians and we were first settling this, there was these giant trees everywhere.
Look at that one there and that dark one in the back there that's leaning over a little bit.
Where?
Right there. Oh, look at it.
Yeah, I see it.
Right in there.
It's a red pine.
No, the one behind it.
Is that a black pine?
No, it's a white pine.
These trees are ancient, averaging 300 years old, and they grew really tall because they had to. In order to get light, they had to go high. And now when they
like the sequoias. Yeah. Well, they go up because they get water.
They get the water, right? Yeah. So but I've seen some big red pines that are probably the same age, but they're bigger. White pines. White pines. I think red too. That are big around, but they're not nearly as tall because they didn't have to fight for light. In an environment where they have to fight for light, all the lower limbs fall off, break off, and die, or they even grow.
Look at this one right here. Look at this. I mean, you can't see the top of it. You literally can't see the top of it. Yeah, you can't.
My neck hurts from trying to even look up at it. You could parachute off that.
Go stand by it so I can see like the comparison.
This is a big one.
You look so small.
It's a big tree. Look. Get my arm halfway around it.
That's not hard.
So big, like if this thing fell over, it'd sound like a bomb going off. It's crazy. These are cool. It's what the world used to look like before man came here.
Yeah.
It's just nothing but these and.
Oh, look at this one up
more.
here. Look at this is a big one. That dark one up ahead. See that big dark white pine?
It's like they're so big you can't even get a perspective.
No, it's hard.
I mean, that thing's like 200 feet tall.
It's so crazy.
You can't. It's like in the clouds almost.
Yeah, you can't see the top of it.
Look, you can see the cloud. I mean, the top from right here.
Yeah,
And the top's gonna break off. It gets so heavy.
I can't even get it.
The tops get so heavy in a windstorm they snap off when they get to be like 300 years old. That's a big mother sucker right there. Big old tree.
Man, that's cool.
Look, this is a big tree. This is the biggest tree I've ever seen, I think.
Yeah, it's
Literally the biggest tree I've ever seen.
that's easy, a 300-year-old pine.
Dude, I've never seen a tree that big. That's
I can't get the
could
top
be
of it.
400 years old. The average is 300 in here. This could be a 400-year-old tree. It's insane, dude. Wow, that's the biggest tree I've ever seen. I've seen some close to that big and a few different
It's
places.
healthy too. That's a healthy tree.
That's the king of the jungle. It's pretty cool, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
People get outside and see these things. Get out and enjoy. Get out and live your life. And check this stuff out. It's worth seeing.
Oh, look at that one's got a crack right in the middle, right there, right in front of you.
This one? Oh my goodness, yeah. That thing's gonna go. Man, that's so dangerous. It's running this way, come on. It's not funny, man. You gust the wind and that thing snaps off and
Go to the left.
it's over.
Look how beautiful.
It's a cool place, man. Like I said, get outside, enjoy things, find things. Somebody you love, somebody you like being around, somebody you like hanging out, somebody you can laugh with and joke with, and go do something. Find something like this cool, and just check it out, live life, experience. That's my whole purpose. I record these videos simply for that. I don't do that to come going, oh, look what I'm doing, look at me, look at what we're doing, we're having fun. No, I want you to think, maybe we could do that. That'll be fun. Something cool to do. Let's get out. Get off your phone, YouTube, everything. See this stuff, man. This is the first time I've ever seen it in my life.
I told you it was cool.
Yeah, it's pretty damn
You
cool.
can't appreciate it unless you know trees. That's the thing.
Yeah, we're tree nerds. We like the outdoors. Anything outdoors we like.
There's a big
Trees,
old
birds.
stump up there.
It's a crazy thing to imagine that the entire countryside was just those giant trees. This little underbrush here, this growth, wasn't there because no light got through. So there wasn't light to get through to create this undergrowth. It was just, and there wasn't leaves. See how you see leaves around? That's from the maples and stuff. It wasn't. It was just pine mat.
Oh, that one's broken off at the top.
Just pine mat and giant trees.
Look at that big stump up there.
That's it. Oh, there's another really big one up there.
Yeah.
Oh man, look how tall that one is leaning.
I know.
Not like the biggest round tree, but geez, old Pete, it's got to be 150 feet easily.
I mean, look how big this stump is.
Oh man.
Imagine how
it was
big.
hollowed out at some point over there, and some porcupines were living in there.
Imagine how big that tree must have been.
Well, there's one that snapped off right there.
Yeah.
See it?
Oh, look at that one leaning. Come here.
See it?
You see it?
Yeah, that's a big one. It would be cool if one of them happened to fall over while we're in here.
Probably not. Oh, there's the chapel.
There's zoom up on that and see how it broke off and like. There's a couple big trees. There's a one we call a widowmaker. One gigantic leaning over a tree that's just waiting to break off and
Well, let's go check out the chapel.
crush somebody. Look at that. Let me see this. See if I can zoom in on that. Oh, there's the
Look
tree.
at, you can see the roots are coming up at the bottom.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, right there. That's the tree. And you follow it up, and it's leaning. One day it's just gonna go fall down. Game over. Nature's prayer.
Nature's prayer. Our Heavenly Father, creator of all that is nature, we humbly come to you in the midst of nature's splendor to thank you that as Americans we are free to worship as we please, work as we please, and move about as we please, to enjoy all that is nature, its mountains, its hills, its valleys, its lakes, its streams, and the living things that dwell therein. We pray unto you that someday the world may be at peace and all men be free to enjoy nature's abundance. We ask you in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ that we be guided to protect this priceless heritage which we, in America, are privileged to enjoy. Amen.
True that. True that.
Look at the windows with the cross.
We are truly privileged.
That is cool.
This place was built by an anonymous donor.
It was donated.
Or donated, or obviously that's what I meant. I mean, I don't know if they built it themselves or
No,
whatever.
I didn't sign up front about the guys that built it, but the money was donated anonymously.
I love that. Someone anonymously said,
If we ever win the lotto, hit big money, we're gonna build a little chapel.
we're going to hit the lotto. We already hit the lotto. But when we get big money,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
we'll build this. We'll build a lot of these.
I mean, on our property, our own house, eventually.
Yeah, and other places too. It's cool. It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. Right.
So until 1870, the entire process of felling a tree was done with an axe, not even with a saw.
That's
The long
crazy.
sticks would make the undercut about halfway through the tree on the side to where they wanted it to fall. Then they made a wedge-shaped backcut on the opposite side of the tree. Axe felling had two drawbacks. Wedges could not be used in the backcut, thus making it more difficult to direct the tree's fall.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Those gigantic trees, they were cutting them down.
And also,
With an axe.
when they did it that way, they wasted wood, right? Because you had to cut a wedge. And so you
Yeah.
waste more feet.
Not a lot, but some. What are all these like pieces? These weird wedges. You know what that is?
Branding. They're brands. See the brands on the end of them? Look at you could
Oh,
brand
so they brand the log. Oh, that's crazy. Those are branding. So they heat them up till they're red hot, and they burn it into the tree and say, "This is my tree."
It says like cowboys branding cattle, loggers mark each log with a symbol or logo that indicated who owned the log. When the logs reached the mill, the workers sorted them according to ownership, indicated by the log marks.
That's crazy.
So you can see some of the brands. Okay, that one.
Wow. Didn't know that. I thought these were
Look at the marks. There's a pig.
must have been a Democrat. This is what the rivers looked like when they were logging. I mean, they'd slide, they're called log rolls. They slide them down. I've talked about this before. This is a log roll here on the Salmon River. It literally might be the one I talked about in a minute. These are all the rivers that they use in Michigan. But look at what the river looked like. Loaded with logs. Millions of dollars of logs. Millions. It's crazy. And every log had its own brand. They brand it. And they'd separate it based on branding. So there might be 10, 15 logging companies using the river. And just grab the river and look for the brand. That's nuts, man. It's nuts. That's what it looked like when they stack it up. Look at that river, man. Saginaw. Oh, good, brother. African Americans. Well, there you go. African Americans photographer from Saginaw took this picture. Wow.
Tonight was a time to relax and play. Unless the camp was close to the town or tavern, the men had to create their own entertainment. Some sang, told tall tales, or recited verse. Sometimes an orchestra or a fiddle or harmonica concertina would play. As music filled the bunkhouse, the men danced. Jacks acted the part of female partners tied bandanas around one arm. At other times, the evening passed more quickly with a card game, reading, letter writing, or whittling.
That's what they did. Bunkhouses. Back in the day, these little hard-working young men, this is what they did. They said, I got to go to work. I'm going to grind. And this in this bunkhouse. That's crazy. Got one here right now. How you doing? And so they had a little kitchen area, I imagine. A couple weeks ago, I was camping and I found that old stove in the middle of the woods, and I know it was a trapper's. It's all cleared off there, and I found this old like brick. Yeah, not trappers, loggers. That's what I meant. And this is what it would look like. Dinner time, you get some biscuits, some honey, if you're lucky. Some gruel. Crazy. I mean, keeping these guys alive to work hard. Got to pay them pretty good, man, because it's a really hard job. So I'm sure they kept them eating good. Cool.
Yeah, the problem was if they didn't eat them good, there was a lot of competition, and the guys would go elsewhere to work.
Right.
Oh, yeah, and they expended a lot of energy.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're talking they would eat about as many calories as an Olympian trying to.
Yeah, exactly. Like 4,000 calories a day, just to survive. You know, you're working so hard, and they fed them good. The logging companies did because they needed them. Without them, they didn't make no money. It's cool. I don't think I could have done it. I could have owned a logging company though. This doesn't have it in me to go out in the winter. Would have been fun though. Would have been fun. The latrine.
The manager's office.
Oh, this is the manager's office here.
Yeah.
You don't want to get called in here.
Lantern.
We have that
Oh,
lantern.
look at this cool.
You don't want to get called in here by the boss or you. I like that chest. That's a cool old chest right there.
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
I like that. That's cool, man. The boss's office. Somebody's got a $500 reward for him, or cartridge remedy. Look at this cool old stove. That's how they heated this place with this cool old wood stove. Crazy. So I am back at this little tiny stream, east branch of the Salmon River. The first place I ever caught a brook trout with my dad. I fished about 5 minutes, and kind of nice little, just a little baby, but still pretty. Look at how pretty this little fish is. This one I'll show you. Look at this little baby brook trout. Look at the colors. Oh, beautiful. And he's not hooked bad, so I can just pop him back in. And that's it. Full circle. I was here 40 years ago. 40 years ago I was here. I was like 9 years old, 8 or 9 years old, maybe 41 years ago. And now there's still brookies here, I see. Not a lot of them because this is probably heavily fished. It's right by the bridge. You know, it's a small creek. It's in the lower peninsula. It's accessible. But, well, still brook trout in it, so that's fun. I'm going to try some other spots though.
What are you doing, Gun?
So this is what we do. We drive around to little secret spots all over the place, out of the way places, and find stuff like this. Come here. So I just went to one little spot on this river. Saw a couple small brook trout. Nothing big, nothing major. So we move and we'll try another spot. The odds are that there's not a lot of great fishing here because it's getting towards late in the summer. It's an easy access point bridge. There's probably been 20 or 30 or 50 trout fishermen have walked this stretch of river since the season started, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. But, pretty beautiful.
Wow, wait till we go up to the north branch of the you-know-what.
Yeah, I know. That's where we're going. And that's a good hole right there. Come over here, stand over here. I'm going to show people something. So you see how the water bottlenecks between that point right there? And what it does is create a faster flow of water. And when it does that, it cuts a hole out, and the faster water washes it out, so it creates a deeper hole. Now, because there's some brambles and brush there, this fish like that. So basically, and by the way, the fish like a faster water. They need it for oxygen. So the faster water carries more oxygen. You won't find them in a stagnant pool. It has to be in a fast-moving current like that. You'll never find trout in a stagnant pool, unless it's in a lake. Let's say stock them or something. So anyways, I'll run a worm through there and see what happens. Probably not, because other people have, but
You never know.
that's what we're doing.
Still, it's beautiful here.
I know, it's beautiful. Look at the skyline.
I know. It's like a picture.
It's beautiful. You never have any complaints when you spend your day doing this. Yeah, unless you don't catch any fish, but
Yeah,
even then.
even then.
How you doing?
Your face, you want some barbecue?
Listen, I'm driving down this for my YouTube channel. I'm
Yeah,
saying
you're on the phone right now.
I'm saying I'm driving by. I'm trout fishing, coming from trout fishing. I drive by and I see this on the side of the road, and I say to my wife, "Barbecue! This pull over." She's like, "Are you sure?" She didn't see it, and we're gonna get something.
Man Bear Meats. Yeah, I was gonna say, you got a hashtag Man Bear Meats in there.
Hashtag Man Bear Meats. That's what it is. All right. My YouTube channel is Gunner Detroit. Gunner Detroit. This is gonna be good. The mac looks really good. Everything looks good. I'm about to smash. So you can't pass a roadside barbecue and not buy it, because then you're missing out. I'm just saying. Get it done. $40 later. Oh. I mean, it's high price stuff, but whatever. I like my pulled pork just plain. You put a little salt on it. Boom. This is bacon mac and cheese. It's the pulled pork burger. Is that what
Brisket burger.
Brisket burger. This is a bacon cheddar brat. I want to get some of them beans. Those beans look really good, but I'm dangerous with the beans. I get dangerous on the beans. This thing is delicious. You can't beat the same. Roadside barbecue place. Stop! So I was like, stop! On the barbecue. And dessert. This ice cream cone. This is $5.50 for this ice cream cone. Inflation. It's crazy.
Yeah.
A single scoop of buttered pecan ice cream and a waffle cone. Like $5. She got a root beer float. Between the two was like $9.50. It's kind of crazy. I will say though, it is delicious. I do wish I would have got another scoop. However, it's real ice cream and I'm lactose intolerant. Ice cream tends to blow my gut up, so another scoop could have been big trouble. Just saying. Living on the edge. Just saying. Oh, yeah?